now we come to a really interesting presentation. Tony, I'm going to pick on you because Tony then after the session came back and said, yeah, but this and this competition, they can do Copilot assisted response, they can do automated summaries, and they can do abstracts from client conversations. You can't do that. David, can we do it? David Eberlein, VP Engineering.
Right, a warm welcome from myself. So, we've been talking a lot about AI today and how AI can make everyone successful, and everyone wants AI. And then people come to me and say, guys, we need AI in the product now. And we're like, well, that's great. So, how does that actually look like? What do you actually do if you want to have AI in the product? And then people will say, it's not that hard. You just take the Unblu product, and then you just put ChatGPT on there, and you're finished, right? And, it doesn't really work like that. It's not really how AI works and how we can make a good user experience and actually make the bank employee's life easier, because a bank employee doesn't need ChatGPT right in there, because they can just have it in another tab and ask it questions, and it'll answer to some of those questions. But the point is, if you want to really use AI and make a valuable contribution to your product with AI, there's two things that you really have to nail. Now, the first thing is context. Now, ChatGPT knows a lot, but they don't know your customer, and they don't know the conversations you've had with your customer, and they don't know the product portfolio you have. They don't know all of that stuff. They can answer general stuff, but AI generally, just by itself, doesn't know the details that you actually need to make yourself or to make the bank employee more efficient. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, we actually need a real deep integration of AI into the product if we want to really make it a lot better. Now, you can have a chat and give it context where you can ask a chatbot questions and it can give you good answers, and that's a good use case. That's totally something we're working on. But I think it goes way farther than that, because the value, and we've heard that today, the value of AI gets even more valuable when we start connecting the dots, when we start connecting the different things we already have that are not AI-based with AI-based, and we put them together, and then we create one thing that's even better altogether. So last year at Impact Day, we already showed you a couple of things we were doing with AI and bots. For example, we showed you our conversational bot, where customers can ask questions, and the bot has context, for example, about your offerings, and it can answer those. And we also showed you something that we heard about today, about the agent sidekick. And interestingly, Maurice was talking about this, that we were working together with Beeper. One of the things we didn't show you last year, and one of the things that are actually not released yet, but one of the things we were working together with Beeper during the last couple of weeks, so just right now, is the fact that while LLMs are usually pretty good at understanding stuff, there are quite a few situations where the agent will still sort of know a little bit better. It will understand the question better, but the agent or the bank advisor might not have the exact answer for the question. So there are situations where the customer's writing a question, maybe in a weird way, that the advisor understands, but the bot will not, the LLM will not. It is actually important that there is a possibility to sort of rephrase that question to get the right answer that you can then send back to your customer. So that's one of the things that we're working on right now to make the features that we built last year even better, so they actually work in a way that the customer needs and the advisor can be more efficient. Now, this is already a sneak peek. This is going to only be officially showed to Beeper next week, I think. So you guys already saw it. You can tell your colleagues. Right. So these are the things we've already done and we're already doing. These are good things, but how can we go farther? How can we integrate the AI capabilities into the product in more places to make the agents, the advisors, the bank employees' life more efficient? So I'm a software engineer, so I'm not going to show you a lot of slides. I'm going to show you the actual product. And I'm going to show you a version of the product that nobody else has because they were still building it right now. But it's almost finished, and you're going to see these things in production very soon. So let's hope that everything will go smooth. So we can switch over to my screen. And what you'll be seeing here is the Unblu 8 agent desk. And we can see my customer-centric view that Yushi was mentioning earlier, my main customers that I can see here. Now, the thing is that I'm filling in today for my colleague, Barry. He called me this morning that he can make it, and I should take care of a couple of customers of him. And one of those being James. And I remember him saying something about what's important with James, but I totally forgot it. So let's sort of try and figure out what was happening there and what I'm even supposed to do. So I have James here. I can already see a couple of important information about him. I can see that he has some SMS integration. I can write him an SMS, but I'm not going to do that now. Let's get into some more details about James. So this is our new customer dashboard where we can see all of the relevant things that we need to about James. And this is where sort of we melt AI with all of the other stuff we already have in the product. So, I see the general stuff that might be interesting. He's apparently using both a Mac and a Windows user. That's a bit strange of a guy. But then again, we can see where he's been lately while he had conversations with us as a bank. So he's been traveling a little bit, not too much, a little bit of Germany, Switzerland, etc. So I have an idea of sort of where he's located. Again, we can see some important notes that are going to help me because he's not my customer, but I've seen him a couple of times. I can sort of remember what's been happening here. He has an assistant, Hans-Peter. Okay. Some other details. And then at the bottom, I can see some labels that sort of tell me more about him. So even though he lives in Zurich, yeah, he's been in Zurich once, so that's good. So that's sort of all information where we don't need AI at all, right? This is stuff we already have, but it's important to see it. But now let's start combining this with AI information. So I see the customer sentiment. So apparently he's a pretty happy guy and happy with us, which is great. So when I call him, I don't have to be scared to be yelled at. Then we see some other things, and you're going to see some of these things are relevant for advisory. Some of these things might be more relevant for retail banking, right? Like average handling time, average response times typically are more in retail. Some private banks might be interested in those, usually not. But this is also one of the things that are really important with us, that we create the things you can choose from, and then the ones you don't want or that are not relevant for you, you just remove them and use and show other information and important key details and KPIs that you are interested in. So I think I know why he's happy, because he usually doesn't have to wait long until we have to respond. 30 seconds, I think, is pretty good. And we can also see the Net Promoter Score, which is sort of his only based on him, the ratings that he's given us and the conversations we've had with him. I can see that there were a lot of calls last week with him, so it looks like Barry was very active with them. I can see the websites on our bank homepage that he has been visiting. Now, these are very boring websites because it's our demo environment and they don't look very helpful. In a real use case, you would obviously see maybe he was looking to mortgage pages or some other sort of investments, maybe VC possibilities that are on your homepage. But it can sort of tell us that he's actively using our bank's website, and he's sort of scrolling around. And an average of 3 minutes seems to be okay, but he doesn't seem to spend too much time in it. I can also see the recent conversations that have been going on. And this is a really important part, I can see a summary of all of the conversations that have recently happened with him. And there's some things here about a WhatsApp integration, so we can do some, casual messaging. I'm not interested in that. But now as I read it, I remember what Barry was telling me. There's a villa purchase update in progress. And I remember Barry said there's a villa on the Bahamas that he wants to buy. And I should get back to him on that. So with that information, I basically have everything to now contact James. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to start a new conversation. I'm going to call it the Bahamas Project. And actually, I'm going to invite Barry here because he's usually responsible for James, and I want him to be able to follow up on whatever we've been talking about. So I'm just going to add him in right here, and I'm going to start the conversation. Great. So just to sort of give him a direct overview of what's been happening, I'm just going to send him a nice photo of that object so he's happy when he opens the conversation. And as you can see, this is a very realistic use case. I bet, advisors do this all the time. But the point is, I want to talk to him, or I'm at least supposed to talk to him. So let's call him. All right. Oh, wait. This guy doesn't look like James. I remember. Oh, no. It's the Hans guy. And the problem is, he only speaks German. And I absolutely don't speak German. Hello, Hans.
Hallo.
Okay, now wait a minute. I have to improvise here. Let's see what we can do. I can definitely turn on captions. Now I can see that he said hello. That doesn't help me. Maybe I can actually go into the caption settings and see a translation. And this is going to help me. Hey, Hans, is it okay if I speak English?
Ja, natürlich, solange ich Deutsch weiterreden kann.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. I can actually understand your German magically. So, did James fill you in on the project on the Bahamas?
Ja, die Villa, gibt es da schon ein Angebot?
Ah, yes. Well, that's great. Yes, the owner actually is willing to sell it. The things you did, they worked. I don't know what it was. But he wants 32 million. Do you think that's going to work?
Ah, das ist noch etwas zu viel. Unser Limit war eigentlich bei 30.
Okay. I mean, that sounds realistic. I think we can work with that. Let me get back to the customer and talk to them about it. And I think we can probably meet at 30 million. Is there anything else I can do for you?
Ja, wenn du mir dann alle Vertragsdetails zukommen lassen könntest, das wäre super.
Sorry, I didn't get that. You spoke a little bit in a way that I have a hearing problem.
Ah, ja, könntest du mir nochmal die Details vom Vertrag zukommen lassen?
Yes, of course. I'll do that later. Well, I guess that's it then, right?
Ja, vielen Dank.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, that went well. Fortunately. And now, the thing that happened now is even better. So what I can see here in my user interface is I can actually see all of the transcript, and I can see my stuff in English, James' stuff in German. I have everything there. And this is important for two reasons. One, I can read through this, right, if I want to read. Two, I can later on search for this. So let's say, I forgot about who I was talking to or what I was talking about. I'm doing a search, and because I have everything already in text and indexed, I can easily find all of the conversations, all of the calls that I had, and just pop right into the conversation to the right place and reread them again and then interact on them again. So that was the first thing that was important. The second thing that I see, which came right after there, are the call meeting notes, because I don't want to actually run through all of that text here. The call wasn't too long, but it can also be longer. I just want to have a really short summary of what was happening here. And this is really, really, really helpful for me. And now imagine, guys, imagine WhatsApp would be doing this for voice messages. I mean, pow! All of these hours spent listening to silly voice messages that are such a waste of time. If WhatsApp would have this, this would be awesome. But they don't. And I cannot build it into WhatsApp, but we can build it into Unblu. And now, at least when you're using Unblu, you don't have to listen back to all of these recordings to just know that people wanted to say hello. You can just read it and be like, well, that's great. I have a short summary. I don't need the rest. And by the way, of course, we still do the recording. Of course, we still have the recorded material, either in audio or audio and video even, so that you really have evidence if you have to go back and say, that person really said it. It's not just the text-to-speech engine that said it. It really happened, right? So all of that is obviously still there with Unblu, and we know it's actually important to have this stuff. All right, so I'm going to tell him in the chat so we can pop in here later. I'll send you the details on the villa this evening. So later when James or Hans looks at it, he's going to see that. And also, I think that's sort of all I need to do for now. So I can close this again. And go over to the customer details. And what I see now is, and this is something that we skipped before, suddenly we have an open task here because AI detected that I wrote a message about sending details on the villa, and it hasn't been solved yet, so it's still here. So this is one of the other ways that we integrate AI with all of the other features that we have an easy, quick list of open tasks that we can then jump into the conversation later on. I'm going to leave this to Barry, actually. He should be back this evening, and then he can send the details. I already sent the image. I think that should be enough for now. And with that, we can finish the demo here, and we can go back to the slides. Great. So let's just take a moment and summarize what we saw and what actually happened. So we used AI, and AI assisted us with many things. First of all, it helped summarizing the last conversations. So I saw an overview of what was said, and it helped me to know what was happening, and remember that I was supposed to talk about this Bahamas villa with James and then his good assistant, Hans. So that was the first thing that already helped us. But it was in the context of all of these other things that also helped me. So AI played an important part, but it wasn't the only thing. We were combining all these different things together. Secondly, it helped me to know the customer's mood. I knew, okay, James is in a good mood. It seems like everything is going well with him. I don't have to do some de-escalation here. Things are running smooth. Thirdly, we saw the bridging of the language gaps. So I was not able to speak English. Well, no, I was. He was not able to speak English, whereas he could speak German. So we had this translation feature. This is great, and this is great in so many use cases. We're going to hear more about this maybe in some other use cases for branch, etc., where this is being used. This can really enable advisors to help customers where they actually don't speak that language, especially in very diverse countries where people are speaking so many languages. And it happens everywhere with the globalization. You have people from all around the world, and they just don't always speak the language of the country they're living in. Next, we saw that the meeting notes helped us to not spend a lot of time taking notes and making sure that everything is written down, but we have a very fast way of doing this. And what you saw right now is the prototype. The real product is going to be even better. We're going to be able to use our our document collaboration feature to directly open those meeting notes, maybe do some adjustments, maybe correct some things or add some things that were missing, and then save those, maybe send them over to the customer or not send them over to the customer. So all of these things are already in the pipeline. They're just not quite there yet. And then lastly, through the ability of AI, we could detect that in the conversation, there are still some open tasks that still have to be solved, and they were put there right there on the dashboard, so whenever later Barry opens those details, he's going to see, oh yeah, there's an open task, I can jump into that task, send that stuff over, and I'm done. So that gives you a little bit of an overview of where we're heading, what we're doing. Obviously, there's so much more you can do. As you can see, there's so many things that AI can do. There's so many different AI capabilities. If we're talking about generative AI that we've been using, we've been talking about natural language understanding that we've been seeing. We've been seeing speech to text. We've been seeing all of these different things which are really helping us. And if we apply them, if we take them and put them into the right place and we combine them, we really believe that we can make the day of a bank employee just so much more efficient and so much more fun. It's not about saying, we're going to take away the work. We're going to make the work more fun. And another thing I wanted to mention here, if you know Unblu, in Unblu, everything can be configured. You can do what the heck you want with the product, pretty much. So if you're saying, well, this AI feature is okay with us, these other features, our agents are intelligent enough to do this themselves, or compliance doesn't allow us to use them, that's totally fine. We allow you to pick the ones you want to use and not use the ones you don't want to use. Also, when it comes to all of these other features, you can typically, just decide how you want them, which ones you want and which ones you don't want, and then put together your specific Unblu version that fits your use case the best. And with that, I'm at the end, and I'm happy to take any questions.